Welcome to Japan's darkest online rabbit holes, part of my series on dark topics found on the Japanese internet. If you've ever found yourself deep in an internet rabbit hole, you're not alone. I'll often start researching one topic and end up engrossed in something completely unexpected, different, but often more fascinating, or horrific. This video combines some of the most striking rabbit holes I have found myself down over the years. Now, be warned, the deeper we go, the darker these topics may get. So, strap in and let's begin. I genuinely don't know what to make of this. The deeper I dive into this rabbit hole, the more bewildering it becomes. And believe me, there's a lot to unpack here. The channel in question is called Shimuland, created back in 2015. It's run by someone who goes by the name Fukushima-kun, a man who, according to his social media and YouTube About page, aspires to be the mayor of a place called Tama City. But none of this really clarifies the bizarre nature of his actual YouTube content. Among his YouTube community posts are requests for viewers to check out his Amazon wishlist, which is filled with items supposedly needed to perform curses. The video titles are equally cryptic, mostly archived live streams with strange provocative headlines or unsolicited opinions. One such title, for instance, declares his opposition to women enlisting in the military. Sometimes the thumbnail images relate to the topic. Sometimes they don't. Most of the time, there isn't really any topic at all. As for the streams themselves, well, despite their provocative titles and seemingly random thumbnails, the streams rarely deliver on what they directly suggest. Instead, there is often long periods of silence and a sense of lethargy. Fukushima usually sits on the floor, chain smoking and drinking in near darkness. Something that feels less like content and more so like you're peering into someone's private ritual, or just how they exist in day-to-day life. The setup itself, what's presented on the screen for the majority of these streams, is haunting. Lit candles, scattered sculptures and figurines, incense, a line of dolls, and even a Super Famicom console. It's all arranged in a bizarre floor-level display. But the most disturbing feature is a single doll suspended from the ceiling. Occasionally, Fukushima will push the doll with his bare feet, causing it to spin slowly towards the camera. These live streams vary wildly in length. Some last only 40 minutes to a couple hours. Others stretching well beyond the 12-hour mark. They often begin in the early evening. A few I caught live started around 7 p.m. in Japan time and went well into the night and early morning. Another constant element of the stream setup is a framed photograph that appears alongside the other objects on the floor. In one of the streams I watched through, he even left the camera focused on the photo itself while he stepped out to buy more cigarettes. He referred to the woman in the photo as his obaba, which is an informal term for a grandmother or elderly woman. It's quickly noticed that this woman is dressed in a formal black kimono, hinting at some kind of religious or ceremonial significance. I'm not even entirely sure if Fukushima-kun knows this woman personally. Fukushima-kun doesn't turn off these streams for anything. And by that I mean not for meals, not even bathroom breaks, and basically just brings the phone with him when he has to do something, aside from leaving the house. Now, nothing explicit is ever shown, it's always from a first-person perspective. All you really see is what Fukushima-kun sees, and you get occasional glimpses of his hands and feet as he moves about. I watched a good number of these streams, there's quite a few, and I made sure to go back and look at the earliest streams, the very first one that's public. And earlier streams looked a bit different. Aside from the consistently cluttered apartment, the very first stream only featured a single Daruma doll with both of its eyes colored in. See, you obtain these dolls without the eyes colored in, and typically you fill in one of the eyes when you have a goal, and when you achieve that goal, you fill in the other. So when a Daruma has both eyes colored in, it's a symbol that some kind of goal has been fulfilled. And that first stream just showed that Daruma doll with no context and nothing being said. That initial setup from these early streams eventually expanded. Religious statues appeared, followed by the framed photo of the Obaba. Over time, this backdrop evolved into some kind of elaborate ritual space, crammed with dolls, candles, incense, and even that gaming memorabilia. It's chaotic, but not without some kind of purpose. And still, I really don't have any idea what these items are meant to do. The community post suggests these are for cursing. What he's cursing and what his intentions are still pretty unclear to me, and I spent a lot of time watching through a lot of these streams. Over this month, I also caught a few live and paid attention to the comments themselves. The comments of the viewers, which there were a good number of viewers, did not provide much either. As the channel grew, Fukushima began acknowledging his audience a little more, though never in depth. And what I mean by that is it was mostly just small talk, vague musings, or brief responses to chat comments.
まあ何度も同じ話しますけど、登録者数1万人行くまでの間はなんかモチベーションがあったけど、次の目標がな遠すぎるんだよ。女の価値なんてだって若さしかないんだから。その価値を失った女といる必要なんかないでしょ。そこに愛はあるんか？ないね。愛は幻。
Now these viewers seem to be just as puzzled as I am. And Fukushima-kun seems largely indifferent to all of it. In one stream, somebody typed, "This looks scary," and Fukushima-kun basically replied, "Scary? No, it's not scary." Now occasionally Fukushima-kun does reference the stream titles. There's one 40-minute stream titled, "Breaking News, My Mother Has Only 3 Months to Live." The stream starts out the same as usual, quiet and not much being said at all, though eventually he does acknowledge that the title is true, and also states that he has no intention of visiting his mother. The only other detail really shared is that he has a sister and he still talks to her. One stream's thumbnail features a well-known image of Yoshihiro Togashi, the creator of Hunter x Hunter. This image is of Togashi sitting in a very messy room. This thumbnail feels like some kind of intentional nod to Fukushima-kun's own living conditions. Beyond the live streams, there are older videos too, dating back to the channel's earliest days. These are original music tracks that he composed. One of these songs is titled, "I Created This Song While in My Mother's Belly." Then there are the shorts, which completely break the tone. They're TikToks with cat memes that were reposted from other accounts. Now going back to the Shimuland Instagram, you won't find these shorts on there. That platform mostly features selfies, many taken near Tokyo landmarks. It is possible that Shimuland, as an online persona, has been active long before the YouTube channel was even created. I myself tried digging through keyword search results, forum threads, and tried to find any trace of discourse or commentary surrounding this guy. Surprisingly, I found almost nothing. No Reddit threads, no blog posts, just a couple of vague Twitter mentions from as far back as 2013. It's unclear if they're referring to the same Shimuland, though I can't really confirm that. There is also a TikTok user that goes by Shimuland as well, but they post MLG gaming content and seem completely unrelated. There's also this other YouTube channel that uses the phrase Shimuland fairly regularly. All of that said, Fukushima-kun does have a Threads account, and there is one Threads post where he refers to the platform as the new Twitter. So perhaps Shimuland does have some kind of Twitter history that's now scrubbed or inactive. In any case, Man, I've spent countless hours watching his streams, scouring the internet, and trying to piece things together. But I've yet to find anything that really clicks. All that aside, there is one thing I do know. His channel is growing. The number of viewers increases with every stream. With every new broadcast, the chat picks up more and more. People are definitely stumbling across this channel, and it's gaining momentum in YouTube's recommendations. Heck, one of my own viewers even mentioned seeing this. That's how I found this channel in the first place. One recent development is that the channel owner has been abruptly ending his streams without warning, and this has only added to the mystery and confusion of the growing viewer base. With all of this speculation and attention on these streams, something tells me that Shimuland's following is only going to grow from here. Among the most disturbing rabbit holes one can go down is their own. And what I mean by that is just Googling yourself and finding out and becoming mortified with how much is just out there. Just Googling your own name can bring up your phone number, places you haven't lived in years, and maybe even current details about where you live and what you're all about nowadays. It really makes you wonder, if I can find it that easily, who else can? And that's where today's sponsor, Aura, comes in. Aura helps remove your personal information from those sketchy data broker sites that sell your data to scammers, telemarketers, and even thieves. And they don't stop there. Aura also offers real-time alerts if your data ends up on the dark web and monitors your credit. Plus, Aura has a VPN, antivirus, password manager, and 24/7 US-based support, all in one app. I get peace of mind, and you can too. Go to aura.com/SakuraStardust to try Aura for 14 days. That's enough time to see if your personal data is already out there. Stop leaving yourself exposed. Try Aura today. This rabbit hole is as interesting as it is obscure, as I had no idea about this until receiving a suggestion to cover the topic during one of my streams. So, there has been speculation surrounding the possibility of a hidden underground network existing beneath Tokyo. These hidden tunnels have been discussed and presented in the book Imperial City Tokyo: Secret of a Hidden Underground Network, written by journalist Shun Akiba. Shun Akiba is a seasoned journalist with extensive experience covering global conflicts, including on-site coverage of the Gulf War during the early 90s. After moving into freelance writing, he allegedly stumbled upon a mystery that would change his life: a vast secret underground network beneath Tokyo, the biggest city in Japan. And it all began when Akiba found an old map in a secondhand bookstore. Comparing it with modern maps, he discovered significant inconsistencies in the Tokyo subway system, sparking his own deep dive into the possibility of a hidden underground network beneath the city. Akiba's investigation uncovered what he calls the 7 riddles, which, according to Akiba, suggest the existence of this massive concealed network. They are as follows. Riddle 1. Subway lines that appear to cross in modern maps actually run parallel on older ones near the Diet Building. Riddle 2. Evidence of a secret underground complex near the Prime Minister's residence. Riddle 3. A pre-war map showing a large unexplained empty space around the Diet Building. Riddle 4. Inconsistent map updates, potentially hiding ongoing construction. Riddle 5. Mysterious aspects of the post-war general headquarters. Riddle 6. Sparse construction records for the Hibiya line. Riddle 7. The new O-Edo line may have been built on an existing older structure, raising questions about its true origin. Akiba's findings extend beyond just maps. He noted closed-off basement levels, locked doors in subway stations, and deep underground libraries, all inaccessible to the public. One striking example is the Diet Library, which reportedly has 8 underground floors that are entirely restricted. Akiba speculates that these tunnels might have been developed for military purposes, perhaps as World War II bomb shelters or Cold War nuclear bunkers. This theory could explain why records are sparse and the media remains largely silent on the matter. Akiba has faced significant professional and financial hardships for pursuing this mystery, including what he believes to be some kind of blacklist. His book on this topic, first published in 2002, is still able to be purchased today. Akiba has never been acknowledged by the media or invited to any interviews. Despite these challenges, his family has supported his efforts, believing he is onto something, and that the public has a right to know what lies beneath their feet. But see, there are known underground tunnels below Tokyo, those being the Metropolitan Area Outer Underground Discharge Tunnel. That's a mouthful, I know. This is a network of tunnels meant to protect the city in the case of extreme flooding. You can even visit these tunnels yourself in person, like literally go down there and see them. That is, as long as you book an official tour with an official tour guide at least 4 weeks in advance. I don't know though. What do you think? Whether you view Akiba's work as groundbreaking investigative journalism or an overzealous conspiracy theory, it undoubtedly raises some intriguing questions. This is a lesser-known topic, being both lost media and a bizarre internet mystery. And it was brought to my attention by a viewer. It's incredibly niche and equally mysterious in how it even happened in the first place. On April 25, 2003, at around 1:41 p.m., during a satellite broadcast of a baseball game that began at 11 o'clock on the Japanese station NHK BS1, the program unexpectedly switched to North Korea's Korean Central Television, also referred to as KCTV. For only a few seconds, the station aired a portion of the North Korean animated propaganda series Squirrel and Hedgehog, specifically episode 22, which originally aired on December 24th of 2002. What's so odd is that the broadcast switch was clean and almost instantaneous. And to add to that, the Japanese BS1 logo remained on screen. Despite being labeled as children's entertainment, the series is quite violent. So how did something like this appear on Japanese TV? Well, it was discussed online shortly following users witnessing the incident itself. Some of these blogs do remain up, but due to the age of them, many are now dead links. There's a bit of conflicting information in these posts, and this one states the interference was 5 seconds long. This one claims it was only around 1 second. Screenshots of the incident are found online too, but currently the footage is thought to be lost. This makes it difficult to definitively prove how long the incident itself had occurred. Many online theorized it was a TV hijacking by North Korea, but this theory is heavily contested. The most plausible explanation points to it simply being a technical mishap. NHK's satellite uplink provider, KDDI, may have accidentally switched to a transponder broadcasting KCTV. This theory is supported by the presence of the NHK BS1 logo during the interruption. That logo is key evidence here, suggesting this was not a hijacking, but a technical frequency switch accident. Reddit discussions, particularly in the r/RTL-SDR and r/satellites communities, delve into the technical aspects. One particular user, known as Tokyo Scoop, explained that the BS1 logo's persistence suggests that the channel was still locked to NHK's system, even as the content stream changed. This implies a ground station error rather than an external hijack. These Reddit posts really explain how this could be, as well as how easy it is for this to happen in the first place. There are also visuals on how this kind of satellite broadcast works to make it a little more explainable. Anyways, NHK's response was swift. Following the incident, the broadcaster issued a verbal on-air apology, stating, "Please excuse us, the footage from the site has been cut off. We are extremely sorry. Please wait a moment." What's interesting is that despite it being a real incident that happened midday during what was likely a game that many in Japan were watching, is that this incident is somewhat obscure, even in Japan. Researching this specific topic even led me to a site with a comprehensive list of every known broadcast incident in Japan's history, all the way back to the 50s. So that's definitely another video I'll make later. Lastly, there's this.
여러분들 안녕하십니까? 失礼いたしました。今、現場からの映像が途絶えております。大変失礼いたしております。しばらくこのままお待ちいただければと思います。
This is believed to be footage of the incident itself, but see, it could be fake. Between the reasoning behind the interference and the validity of this footage, there are multiple layers to this whole thing. It kind of reminds me of another Japanese internet mystery, one that has to do with TV footage. That being the 2009 Nick Japan shutdown. A lot of alleged footage of that shutdown itself has come about over the years, but there really is no way of proving the legitimacy of the footage. Any of the footage that surfaced, it's a whole thing. This specific footage does seem real, and it does include that verbal apology following the interference. But there's nothing else to really compare it to, aside from the still images on those old web pages discussing the incident. But then again, this mystery is not very well known at all. While the Nick Japan shutdown does have a bit of a following and is a pretty well-known lost media topic, it's not uncommon with these popular topics for people to recreate lost media and claim it as real. But this is typically something you see with more popular searches, with, more eyes on them. So, who knows? I'd like to once again thank this viewer for bringing such an obscure internet mystery to my attention, as well as providing a ton of sources gathered from their own searches and posts regarding this topic. You may be familiar with the tanuki, or raccoon dog, an animal indigenous to Japan, and I'm almost positive you know what a standard base form raccoon is. These guys are not indigenous to Japan. Despite this, Japan has a really big raccoon problem, one that is decades in the making, with a particularly unique origin story. And Japan's raccoon infestation is a unique example of how popular culture can inadvertently lead to significant environmental challenges. In 1977, Japan experienced a unique cultural phenomenon known as the raccoon boom. This was sparked by the anime series Rascal the Raccoon, or Araiguma Rascal. This 52-episode anime, adapted from Sterling North's 1963 memoir, depicted a young boy's adventures with a pet raccoon named Rascal. The anime's popularity led to a surge in demand for raccoons as pets. And because raccoons weren't around in Japan naturally at this point in time, it resulted in the importation of approximately 1,500 raccoons per month. These raccoons were brought over from North America. However, raccoons are wild animals and proved difficult to domesticate. Many owners, unable to manage them and provide a suitable environment for them to live in, just eventually decided to release these animals into the wild, which doesn't seem like a huge deal or anything bad initially, but doing this is bad in a number of ways, and it has caused a number of problems for Japan and the raccoons and wildlife themselves. Japan's raccoon infestation has caused severe ecological, cultural, and economic damage, and that is what makes it an unpleasant topic to research. The raccoons also spread disease like rabies, leptospirosis, and raccoon roundworm, which pose significant health risks for both the humans and the rest of the wildlife. The raccoons over the years have caused extensive damage to Japan's historic temples and shrines, including the iconic Myodo-in temple, where they often scratch and claw at wooden structures there, resulting in costly repairs. Raccoons raiding rice paddies, fruit orchards, and vegetable farms have also resulted in millions of yen in crop losses annually, with 2022's damages estimated at 450 million yen. The Japanese government has spent millions on trapping, sterilization, and awareness programs, with only mixed success. Despite these efforts, raccoon numbers continue to rise, making it a long-term financial and logistical challenge. Now, yes, I know this isn't a topic most people would find as dark or disturbing as the other things on here, and it really isn't as disturbing as some of the stuff in this video, but I do like to include societal issues like this that are darker than assumed at first glance. It's an interesting rabbit hole and fascinating to learn about. Also, it is a bit of a palate cleanser between the other topics on here, but all of that aside, this issue still indirectly hurts the animals and the environment. And these animals didn't ask for any of this, and are just doing what they have to do to survive. Now, who knows how bad this problem will get in the future, and what distress it can cause people and animals alike. The Hito house is one of the strangest and most enduring urban legends to emerge from post-disaster Japan. This eerie abandoned structure, marked with the kanji character Hito, meaning person, has become a particularly popular internet mystery in recent years. The Hito house is located in Tomioka City of Fukushima Prefecture, an area profoundly impacted by the 2011 Tohoku earthquake, tsunami, and subsequent Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster. In the chaos following the disaster, countless homes, vehicles, and personal belongings were scattered across the region. Amid this devastation, one house found itself inexplicably relocated to the middle of a road, far from its original foundation. What sets the Hito house apart from other abandoned structures is the mysterious kanji character Hito that covers all of the walls, both inside and out. This single unsettling character is scrawled across every available surface, sometimes in small orderly rows, other times in large frenzied strokes. Some speculate that the home was marked by somebody with a disturbed mind. The same kanji can be found on nearby vehicles and debris, further deepening this mystery. As images of the Hito house spread across Japanese forums like 5channel and Twitter, users quickly began speculating about the origins and meaning behind the markings. Another theory suggested that the cleanup crews might have used the kanji to denote areas requiring attention or to mark structures scheduled for demolition. However, this idea was largely dismissed, after it became clear that no official cleanup procedures included such markings. Now, another popular theory suggests that the markings were a desperate attempt by the house's former owner to reclaim their home or signal for help, though this too has been widely questioned given the chaotic and dangerous conditions in the area at that time. Now, the most chilling interpretation is that the characters are the work of a grief-stricken and traumatized individual, perhaps driven to do this by the disaster or by the haunting isolation of this abandoned town. Ultimately, the Hito house remains an enigma, but it is still discussed in recent years. The most recent mention I found was this Reddit post from only a few months ago. This poster physically located and traveled to this very home, providing more photos and perspectives, sharing the condition of the Hito house today, and confirming it still stands. What's heartbreaking to think about is how this used to be a person's home, and how the whereabouts and safety of its former inhabitants are currently unknown. Despite its scale, there are many people who remain unaware of Unit 731's existence, and how horrific everything associated with it is. It's a project that was covered up for years, and many become stricken with curiosity about why it was covered up for so long. And once you learn of it, a very deep rabbit hole awaits. Unit 731 was a covert biological and chemical warfare research and development unit of the Imperial Japanese Army during World War II. It was responsible for some of the most notorious war crimes in history, conducting human experimentation in the name of medical science and biological warfare research. Unit 731 was established in 1935 by General Shiro Ishii in the Pingfang district of Japanese-occupied Manchuria. Ostensibly created for disease prevention and water purification research, its true purpose was far more sinister. Unit 731 conducted brutal human experimentation, including dissecting living prisoners without anesthesia to study the effects of various disease and injury, infecting subjects with deadly pathogens like plague, cholera, anthrax, and smallpox, as well as exposing the prisoners to extreme cold to study the side effects of frostbite, using human subjects as targets for grenades, flamethrowers, and other weapons. Who were the victims of such cruel experiments? The majority of the victims were Chinese civilians and military prisoners captured during Japan's occupation of Manchuria, though those considered enemies of the Japanese Empire, including Chinese resistance fighters and Soviet prisoners, were also often sent to Unit 731. Some victims were reportedly lured under the pretense of receiving medical treatment or vaccinations. Almost no one who entered Unit 731's facilities left alive, as the unit typically executed survivors to prevent the spread of knowledge about these experiments. It is estimated that tens of thousands, possibly up to 200,000 people, perished in these experiments. Additionally, Unit 731 released plague-infected fleas and contaminated water supply to China, leading to further widespread suffering and death. After Japan's defeat in 1945, many of Unit 731's leaders, including Shiroishi, received immunity from prosecution in exchange for their research data, which the United States deemed valuable for its own biological warfare programs. This deal kept the full extent of Unit 731's crimes hidden from the public for decades. Even today, many of the details about its experiments, the extent of its reach, and its influence on post-war biological research remain murky. Declassified documents, alleged survivor accounts, and post-war confessions have slowly emerged on the internet in recent decades and have also fueled online debates and investigations. If you decide to research this one further, please proceed with caution. A lot of the gruesome images and written accounts are available online. Today, the former headquarters of Unit 731 serves as a museum and memorial, a stark reminder of the horrors inflicted during this dark period. While most things in this video are pretty unpleasant, this is a topic that I really don't recommend you research at any great length. Researching Japan's death row system can quickly become a deep and unsettling internet rabbit hole, revealing a disturbing web of psychological, legal, and ethical complexities. At first glance, you might come across basic statistics about Japan's use of the death penalty, but a closer look reveals a system shrouded in secrecy. The life of an inmate is especially cryptic, as inmates on death row are kept in near total isolation, confined to small 5-square-meter cells with little natural light and constant surveillance. They are prohibited from speaking to other prisoners, and their physical activity is limited to just 2 brief sessions per week. This intense isolation, combined with the knowledge that their death can come at any moment without prior warning, creates a psychological nightmare. See, a person on Japan's death row does not know the day they will pass away. They find out the day of. In Japan, both the prison and death row systems are characterized by strict discipline and a cultural emphasis on order and conformity. These principles reflect broader societal values of responsibility and atonement. Japan maintains the death penalty, primarily for severe crimes such as mass murders. Inmates are typically notified only hours before execution. Regardless, actual executions are not carried out very often. One notable case, and the most recent, is that of Shinji Aoba, who in July of 2019 committed an arson attack on Kyoto Animation Studio 1, resulting in 36 deaths and 34 injuries. Believing the studio had plagiarized his work, Aoba doused the premises with gasoline and set it ablaze. In January of 2024, the Kyoto District Court sentenced him to death, deeming him mentally competent. Aoba initially appealed but withdrew it in January of 2025, finalizing his sentence. The tragedy that is Kyoto Animation's arson incident is also a heavy and deeply saddening topic to research. But despite such a horrible tragedy, the studio has mostly recovered in the years since, or at least recovered the best they could. 36 lives were lost that day, and unimaginable trauma must still linger for those who were able to escape. Kyoto Animation does remain a prominent animation studio today, thanks to the support of many. Another death row case is that of Iwao Hakamata, who spent over 45 years on death row before being acquitted due to coerced confessions and fabricated evidence. This specific case does highlight systematic issues within Japan's justice system. Iwao was formerly a professional boxer and had a brief boxing career from 1959 to 1961. After retiring from boxing, he worked at a miso manufacturing company in Shizuoka. On June 30th of 1966, a fire at his employer's residence led to the discovery of the bodies of the executive, his wife, and 2 children. Approximately 200,000 yen was stolen. Hakamata was arrested based on a confession obtained after 264 hours of interrogation over 23 days, during which he was reportedly denied basic needs. He later retracted his confession, claiming it was coerced. Despite this, he was convicted and sentenced to death in 1968. Hakamata remained on death row for decades, and almost 40 years later, in 2007, one of the original trial judges publicly expressed doubts about Hakamata's guilt, stating he also believed the confession was coerced. This revelation spurred a campaign for retrial, supported by multiple organizations. DNA tests conducted in 2008 and 2011 indicated that the blood on the clothing used as evidence did not match Hakamata's. In March of 2014, the Shizuoka District Court granted a retrial and released him, citing the possibility of fabricated evidence. On September 26th of 2024, Hakamata was officially acquitted, and the prosecution declined to appeal, finalizing his exoneration. In 2025, Hakamata was awarded over 217 million yen, which is approximately 1.4 million US dollars. This money was compensation, equating to about 12,000 yen for each day of his wrongful imprisonment. Now, this does not make up almost 60 years spent under the conditions of Japan's death row. Almost 60 years of not knowing what day will be your last for a crime you did not commit. Almost 60 years of not knowing what day will be your last, while the person who actually committed the crime and murdered those people may still remain free. Imagine over 5 decades of that, leaving 60s Japan and suddenly being released into the Japan of today. Hakamata is currently 89 years old. With everything considered, it's a very complex rabbit hole to go down. Japan has a lot of abandoned homes, and researching why that is definitely quite the journey. So Japan is currently grappling with a significant housing issue, and not lack of housing. Rather, there are over 9 million vacant homes. These homes are known as akiya and are scattered across the country. This figure represents nearly 14% of all the homes in Japan, and projections suggest this could rise over 30% within the next decade. The akiya situation is unfortunately a visual result of Japan's aging population and declining birth rate. The primary reasons for this widespread vacancy are deeply rooted in Japan's shifting demographics. The nation's population is both aging and shrinking, with a median age of over 48 years and one of the world's lowest birth rates. In short, as elderly homeowners pass away, sometimes being the victim of what Japan calls lonely deaths, their properties often remain unclaimed, with 40,000 of these lonely deaths in isolation being reported last year alone. It's very easy to correlate many of these abandoned homes to this grim issue. And the topic of lonely deaths in itself is another very grim rabbit hole to go down. Now, of course, not all akiya are the result of this. Some remain vacant simply because their heirs have moved to urban centers. This is due to work opportunities, just preference, or because the cost of maintaining or renovating these older homes is seen as prohibited. Additionally, there's a strong cultural preference for new homes over older structures. And this further complicates the issue. A desire for new things is reflected in many aspects of Japan's society and popular culture, actually. One big example I can think of is music. While many young people outside Japan enjoy and appreciate city pop and older anime, young people in Japan often prefer the latest music and latest media. I've actually had this conversation with many people from Japan. I'll state my interest in anime or music, which is often stuff from the 80s or 90s, and people have often responded, "Wow, those are really old. I think my parent or some kind of older relative likes those." And of course, that's not the case for everyone, but I digress. Unlike in many Western countries where historic homes are seen as valuable assets, Japanese homes typically depreciate rapidly, losing much of their value within just a few decades. This has led to a cycle where even structurally sound buildings are abandoned in favor of new construction. Economic factors also play a role. High demolition costs discourage property owners from removing these old structures, while Japanese tax laws often impose higher taxes on vacant land than on land with buildings. This tax structure unintentionally incentivizes owners to leave their decaying homes standing rather than tearing them down, further contributing to the proliferation of akiya. The impact of these abandoned homes extends beyond just property values. Entire rural communities face the risk of decline as vacant homes become safety hazards, attract pests, and erode the overall aesthetic appeal of these neighborhoods. The The economic consequences are significant as well, with an estimated $24.7 billion loss in Japan's property market over the past 5 years alone. To combat the growing issue, various incentives have been launched. Local governments have created Akiya banks, which are online databases listing vacant homes available for sale at significantly reduced prices, or even for free, in an effort to attract new residents. These programs often come with additional incentives, like subsidies for renovation, just to make the prospect more appealing. Some regions have also started promoting these homes to foreign buyers, recognizing the potential for tourism and vacation rental markets. Despite these efforts, significant challenges do remain. The cost of renovating these old structures to meet modern building costs, coupled with the complexities of property rights, can still deter potential buyers. However, with continued governmental support and innovative approaches, there is hope that these once abandoned homes can be transformed into valuable assets that help revitalize Japan's rural communities. At first glance, this appears to be a societal issue and not much else to look into, but then I came across all the Akiya listings online and was astonished by the high number of them and the low prices they were being sold for. One of the most interesting ones is a site known as Akiya Mart. Its listings for homes for sale appear to be as simple to obtain as the typical Amazon order. Heck, some of these are fairly new homes and sometimes come with the previous owner's property. It seems too good to be true, and I ended up looking into the site itself. Surely it couldn't be this easy. Wouldn't you need to physically visit Japan in order to make such a transaction? You'd need some kind of residency, right? Well, yes and no. I've seen both positive and negative testimonials, and even some who bought a home through the site. The site itself is more like Zillow or Redfin, where they're not the actual real estate agent in Japan you would need to go through in order to obtain the home. Plus, you still need to obtain a visa to go through the whole process of living in Japan, if you're not already from there. A lot of these homes are in rural locations where communication is a bit tedious. I'm talking people who still use fax machines and don't even use email. Some have unusual requirements in order to actually obtain them. In other words, a number of these homes may have some kind of catch or unsavory element that goes along with them. Some of the prices of these homes are such a shocker to myself personally, though. Being from a country where real estate is so expensive, especially right now, I mean, it's straight up unobtainable for many young adults. This is pretty fascinating. Though I do see these old homes, many built during Showa Japan, and wonder about the people who lived in them and what kind of lives they led, and how these specific homes ultimately ended up abandoned. So this doesn't seem like a dark topic at face value, but it kind of is when you think of it from that perspective, at least to me. Like, I just want to see some of these homes in their prime, when there were happy families inhabiting them. Anyways, I also looked into some Akiya vlogs on YouTube and found plenty of success stories. It's really nice to see people building lives in Japan and flourishing in these formerly abandoned homes. But I also find myself wondering about the lives built in these homes in the decades prior. So, there are quite a few cases of people in Japan going off to live in the wilderness, and doing so successfully for decades. Looking this specific topic up in English will often bring up the famous story of Shoichi Yokoi, but a search in Japanese will present other notable cases that aren't often discussed. The three most fascinating to me are the stories of Kazuma Kamura, Masafumi Nagasaki, and Shoichi Yokoi. Each of these men withdrew from society under very different circumstances, yet their stories collectively explore themes of survival, isolation, and human endurance. Let's start with the one I've only seen mentioned on Japanese web pages. I've yet to see any mention of this story that's not in Japanese. This is the story of Kazuma Kamura. Kamura's story is one of the most remarkable true accounts of survival and resilience in modern Japan. One I pieced together in full from Japanese news articles, blog posts, and videos, so here it is. Born in 1946, Kamura grew up in an abusive household. At just 13 years old, unable to endure the cruelty of his family any longer, he ran away from home with nothing but the clothes on his back. A young Kamura remained in the wild, but only a few weeks later, his loyal dog Hito and Akida Inu, had found him in the wilderness. From that point on, it was only those two alone. It was 1959, and rather than seek shelter with others, Kazuma disappeared into the wilderness of Japan, beginning a life of near-total isolation that would span more than 4 decades. He wandered from place to place, sleeping in caves, abandoned mines, riverbanks, and deep in the forest. One of the places he called home being the notorious Aokigahara, located near Mount Fuji. And to survive, he foraged for wild vegetables and mushrooms, though later on learned to catch and eat insects, snakes, frogs, rats, and even wild boar. He taught himself how to make tools, set traps, build fires, and often went months or even years without seeing another human being. His bond with his dog Shiro remained one of his few comforts during his early years alone, though eventually even Shiro would be lost to time, as his beloved dog eventually passed away, though it was likely from old age. For 43 years, Kamada lived outside the bounds of society. He watched from the shadows as Japan changed, modernized, and his family likely forgot him. Who knows if they even made any attempt to try and find him. His days were filled with hunger, cold, danger, and profound loneliness. Yet, also a sense of freedom and raw connection to nature. He was always moving, always hiding, and never really trusted anyone. It wasn't until the year 2003, when he was in his late 50s, that Kamada was finally found and brought back to society. At this time, he was in poor health, but still alive. Accounts claim he was skin and bones, and extremely cautious. Despite that, he was described as being very sharp and deeply introspective. His re-entry into the world was difficult, and was initially treated as a vagrant and arrested. But over time, he began to share his story with those who were willing to listen. He later wrote a memoir, titled The Cave Oji-san, or The Old Man of the Cave. In this book, he recounted his harrowing journey of survival, trauma, solitude, and self-reliance. The memoir became a quiet sensation in Japan, inspiring both a children's book and a 2015 NHK drama adaptation. Now, unfortunately, none of these are translated into English, and I personally feel that many would love to hear his story outside of Japan. Now, the other two similar stories are just as fascinating. Shoichi Okoi's story begins in World War II. A soldier stationed on Guam, he went into hiding when American forces captured the island in 1944, believing it was dishonorable to surrender. Yokoi remained hidden in the jungle for 28 years, surviving on what he could forage and trap. When he was discovered in 1972, he returned to Japan a living relic of a forgotten war. While the war had ended decades earlier, Yokoi's loyalty and shame kept him in self-imprisoned exile, and news of his survival became a national fascination. Yokoi passed away in 1997 at age 82. And then there's Masafumi Nagasaki, commonly referred to in Japan as the Naked Hermit. In contrast to the other two, Nagasaki chose a life of solitude, not out of fear or trauma or sense of responsibility, but as a form of personal liberation. In 1989, he moved to the remote island of Sotobanari, stripping away any contact with modern life, and for nearly 30 years he lived nude and alone, subsisting on rice deliveries and the island's natural resources. His retreat was philosophical. He sought purity, silence, and freedom from society's pressures, though authorities eventually removed him from the island in 2018 for health reasons. His eccentric lifestyle drew international attention, earning him the nickname Japan's Naked Hermit. While vastly different in origin and motivation, the stories of these three men shared a common thread: the desire, voluntary or not, to live outside human society. Hello everyone, and welcome to the end of the video. And you may have noticed something a little different about this specific video. all that aside, it is time for the Patreon shoutouts. If you're new here, every video, at least once per month, I will shout out all my patrons and thank them and stuff, and it'll be right here. My Patreon has a lot of benefits. I do Patreon cuts of certain videos when there's topics that are a little too much to discuss on YouTube completely. Last Patreon cut was Japan's darkest TV moments. There's also a Discord group where people can chat. I pop in every now and then. There's Patreon exclusive videos that come out every now and then. So check it out if you want to support me and the stuff I do. Anyways, a huge, tremendous, Gigantamax size thank you to Fate, Nobody Was Found, Tilly, Nick Stuckenborg, Rambo Ral, Andrew Poshka, Justin, Goromi Fan Number 1, Ren, Night Tripper, William Baker, Javier Arajo, John R., Jamil Oliver, Zan, Tarian Gales. Also, I believe I may have been mispronouncing your name on and off. I apologize for that. Disco Yeti, I'm Just a Cop, Pocky, Monty Pla, Misato Sumemasa, Jelly Rolling, Mugen, Garo R, Rex Drinks Red Bull, Rachel J, Vanessa, Raglan Strom, Rain Summers, Solid Ellipsis, Hannah Timberjack, Zaina B13, J-Man, Erlyn Knifelock, Connor McLaughlin, Jordan May, Shelfie, Stephen Bride, Creepy Leanie, Gina Britton, Luke Brown, Pigpen, Layla Bloom, Lizard Queen 27, Newt Fruit Shoot, Hexmaniac Hana, Chitoge, Jeremiah BLR, 322-32232, Dora Moraso, Flo Ami, Para, Meek, Sidnep, Hosea DeRoca, Akali, Red Hoodie 50, Karasiza, Iggs, C Chameleon, Digital Dub, Shivan Vashi, Pan Fried Life Jacket Awareness, Stadio VGM, Negra J. Reese, Argua Bill, Christopher Valencia, PP Pasca Tag, Andrew LaPena, Mads House, Airfire, Grand Tactician, Soko, and Bichon and Knife. And that is all she wrote, or rather, that's all Patreon wrote. But I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for supporting me and what I do. I have a ton of videos that are going to be rapid fire coming out pretty soon. And yeah, check out my Patreon if you want. If not, I'll see you in the next video. Either way, yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now, guys.